Shalom. Let's start off by giving all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushua, Bahashem, Kakadash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of great millstone salutation to the Philet, disputing its truth across the four corners of the earth and all fake truth with sincerity. On this, I'm going to buy get back and give him that sitting. As we're going to about what's going on with the U.S. economy, the stock market, and the jobs. How, right now it's not it's not looking good, and just ran into a couple articles about, how this could lead to, a recession or, probably, really a crash. And if it does lead to a stock market crash or, a crashing of the economy, it's a scripture, I'm gonna get it, but, I'm gonna get to these articles first, but it's a scripture going to, it's gonna be the great crashing, of all crashes. This is gonna be the crashes of all crashes. If it happens, it's gonna be to where, ain't no fixing it. Ain't no point of return. The only the problem to the solution to the problem is gonna be, once these Edomite devils, so-called white people, the ones in power, the elites and so forth, the bankers, they, go from, this current currency of, paper dollar and, using debit cards and this and that to ultimately they're going to make to where you're going to have to take that RFID chip, which is the mark of the beast, That's going to be the problem to the solution, once this economy fully crashes. So, there's got to be a solution to the problem, and that's what it's going to be. That's what's going to be. Excuse me. That's what it's going to be. The solution to the problem. So, we will see how the rest of this month go. But it's kind of trending to where this could be the time where, hey, this could be the great crashing of all crashes, of the U.S. economy, and the economy just going straight downhill, dead. No point of return. Ain't gonna be no reviving. Once this happens, it's gonna escalate to utter chaos in the streets, and people just start losing their minds, and they're gonna survive how they gotta survive. Second Ezra's, 15, goes into 15 chapter, go to 16 too, but those chapters, but Second Ezra's, man, it's 15, chapter 15, 16. Those gonna be jumping off, man. You're gonna have people trying to survive out here, man. Ain't gonna have no pity on their neighbors for lack of food and so forth, man. We got a situation where the food stamps gonna be cut off by November. What they were saying, when they said if they don't pass a funding bill before November, then it could lead to a great crash, man. Before November, because 1929, that crash, the first stock market crash happened 1929 was in October, late October. So we we're trending towards that point of, hey, it could possibly be a huge crash a huge crash coming for the U.S. economy and to the world, So, but I'm getting to it on this article. This first article, Daily Mail, stock market panic as two banks reveal terrifying data echoing '08 crash. Demon, I'm saying it right, says everyone needs to be warned of this. So I'm kind of go around, kind of skip around, but I'm trying to get to the point of this article. So Um, so I'm trying to get to the point. So I'll start at. See. Matter of fact, I just start right here. So the market was rattled on Thursday after two regional banks disclosed that bad loans causing to sell out, which eventually hit the wider market. They sparked a concern about poor lending practices and credit quality in the market, which may already warning is overheated and set for a sharp correction. That's not wonderful. There are fears that the banking system is flashing the same red lights that once triggered a global meltdown. Um, Kind of skip around this. So yeah, I'm gonna go down to questions are now being asked about whether there are other bad loans. If there have been too much lending to weak companies, which now upended both Wall Street and Main Street. The 2008 financial crisis was primarily caused by the collapse of the U.S. housing market, which was triggered by Americans defaulting on predatory supreme mortgages, whatever. Um, so on Friday, the stock market seems to be steady with the two banks at the center of Thursday action, also rising to trim some of the losses. Okay. But yeah, it's sitting. So just the point of like it's showing like say 2008 financial crisis, which was the housing market crisis, right? So no, that was like one of the crashes there, in '08, you know. So you had the one in 1929, you had the one in 2008. That's one, that's two. So this one that's coming up, if it trending to how things are going right now, it could lead to a huge crash. And once this crash happens, they can't fix this. It's like once it hits, I can't tell you what day of this month. It could be before November. It could be before November if it's going that way. Like I say, these folks could wake up. Everything just in red, just flat. Like it just it ain't enough. It's over with. You know what I'm saying? It's just a complete collapse of everything, basically. You know what I'm saying? So we'll see how things go this month. We'll see if they pass a funding bill before November. We'll see. But there are, people saying that by November, well, they saying November 1st, people would not be getting food stamps, or they're getting their food stamps cut, or not at all, in November, not getting any food stamps. So we just got to see, Medicaid too. We just got to see, man. But like I say, that's how you got to see how the rest of this month go. And hey, if it happens, it happens. Hey, it's over. It'll be completely over once it happens. So I said that great crash comes about, because it will come about, whether it be this year or next. But knowing that it's eventually going to happen. The way you see the downturn of the economy, and how things are going right now. People in America, Babylon the Great, are struggling to just buy just regular needs of goods like hygiene products and stuff like that. Food and so forth. Just just to have in a household, just like regular stuff that you get weekly, right? People are struggling to get that. It's forget your wants. It's just about needs right now. Folks are struggling just to buy. So we could be in that point in time right now where that great crash that could happen this month. If not this year, it could be next. But we'll see how things go. But let me see. So I'm kind of get to the point of this rest of this. So it said last month, subprime auto lender dealer Tricolor Rich provided loans to families with poor or no credit went burst. Uh, when I say went bust, borrowers at the lower end of the income spectrum tend to default first. There are growing fears that other lenders targeting the same group could also collapse, echoing what happened with subprime home loans in 2008. Americans are racking up huge amount of debt to keep their cars, while a record amount can't keep up with the payments. So you got a situation, hey, hey, my car gone, I couldn't, but people that can't make their car payments on time, or even, can't make them no more because of, or like I said, the job market is bad. We're going to go to the next article about that. The job market sucks and nobody hiring, or they're not paying enough, or they're getting their hours cut. So they can't pay their car no on time, or they can't even pay it at all no more. People getting repoed. I got repoed, you know what I'm saying? Because, not having no type of income to pay when I got to pay. So, but it just, hey, you seeing how, it's affecting these people here in America, Babylon Great, the economy, is bad, man. The job market is bad. But, not long after Tricolor Auto Parts supplier first brands also filed for bankruptcy amid an accounting scandal that has left lenders scrambling for more than $2 billion in missing funds. Let's see, go to the front of this. So I'm gonna go to this point right here. I said my attendance goes up when things like that happen. Demon told analysts during a call Tuesday, and I probably shouldn't say this, but when you see one cockroach, there are probably more. Everyone should be forewarned on this. The soaring cost of cars and insurance is pushing millions of Americans into financial brink, and Wall Street is worried it could spark the next recession. So that's these folks that they paid attention how things are going with the economy and so forth, the stock market, this and that. Experts and stuff. They know they seen like, hey, it's just a matter of time. For this, it could go just completely all bad. And like I said, we in that month in October. This is around that time when the stock market could completely crash. Like I said, for like history, 1929, that happened in October. 2008, that happened in I think it happened in October too. I got to go. It was late September, or I think it was in October, but it's around that time, right? So it's in the same time frame, going in the fall time frame. So, that's where we at, man. So we gotta see how the rest of this month go, like I say. But so it said black unemployment is surging again. This time is different. It says so New York. It says joblessness for black workers is rising again. 2 years after reaching a record low, it's troubling indicator. Joblessness often spikes higher for historically marginalized groups during economic downturns and takes longer to fall. This time, the Trump administration assault on diversity programs and cuts to federal workforce could make it even more difficult for black workers to recover with conditions improve. So it's the African American unemployment rate has surged over the past 4 months from 6% to 75%, while the rate for white people trickled down slightly to 3.7%. On top of a slowing economy, the White House actions have disproportional harm to black workers, economists said. So you see how African Americans and Negroes even the Latinos, the Israelites, which are the so-called Negro Latino natives, are the Israelites. You see how this is affecting, the Israelites, Jacob, affecting, the Negro Latino natives. It's kind of like if they saying this by this right here, it's like it's strategically it's set up like this. Like, okay, if white people are, theirs is down slightly, 3.7% compared to African American Negroes, it's like, okay, it's strategically being done on purpose to, well, okay, you apply for a job, if you're a Negro or African American on your application, you ain't gonna get it, but a white person will get it before you. A Edomite devil, a red devil get it before you. So it's kind of like it's strategic set up to have Negroes or Latinos, natives, in a bad to not be to be unemployed and not be employed, and to be down and bad, and they can't pay their bills, whatever it may be, or rent, because they're not getting hired from these companies, so they can pay their bills and so forth to stay in their homes or keep their cars, whatever it may be. So it's like a strategic setup to where to keep blacks, Latino natives unemployed, so they could be homeless and nowhere to go and can't pay their bills straight, or whatever it may be, and keep them down. While the white Edomite devils, they'll hire them faster than they'll hire a Negro, or African American, whatever. They'll hire them quicker because, hey, this is their setup, this is their world, right? This is their system. So it's fucked up, but it is what it is. But we in those times, man. We in those times, man. Hey, you devil, so-called white people, Edomite devils are showing their true colors. Hey, they hate you, Negro, Latino natives. They don't care about you. They'd rather see you down and dead, dead in the street, where it may be. They don't care. You so-called Negro Latino natives, they put y'all trust in this system, in the so-called white man Esau Edomite system. It's gonna be a shame onto you, man. Scripture going to that, But like, man, I thought you folks really, gonna help us and take, and care for us. Nope. They showing that now. It's gonna be going forward, showing the way. It's gonna be more harsher as we go forward, man. So, I say if you, what I'm saying, if me myself first and foremost, hopefully better be part of the righteous number of the elect of the so-called Negro, Latino, Native American Israelites. Because if you're not part of that righteous number of the Israelites, if you're not gonna be delivered by Lord Yahushua, you're not gonna have mercy by Lord Yahushua in these times. That's all it boils down to. You're not gonna be delivered. You're not gonna, and the miracles from Lord Yahushua are not gonna come upon you if you're not of that number. Hopefully I'm part of the number. Lord Yahushua have mercy upon me. But 2/3 of Israelites, so-called Negro Latino natives, going to face some harsh judgments and harsh deaths. It's going to come upon a lot of so-called Negro Latino Native American Israelites. But so I'll go from there to I ain't finna read all this. So let's see. So it's at least since the 1970s, when the federal government started tracking unemployment by race, the rate for black people has run about twice the rate for white people because of inferior educational opportunities. A legacy of mass incarcerations and discrimination over generation, black people confront greater challenges in the job market. So, like I say, this system, the so-called white man Edomite devils, the ones that run it, they set up for so-called Negro Latino natives to, they set it up to where it's gonna be hard for you to get a job. You gotta be qualified for this and that, or they got some called now overqualified, or you too overqualified to get this job, and it all it boils down to that like I say, these so-called white people, Edomite devils, they hate you, Negro, Latino, natives, which are y'all Israelites, man. They don't want to see you thrive, They don't want to see you be better than them. That's they fear. That's they, like, oh no, these people, they could be they smarter and more stronger, more better than us, in what they do. If I like, and even in just working a regular, job, working just a job or whatever it may be, or having your own business and this and that, they don't want they don't want to see you so-called Negro Latino natives thrive. They hate that, They hate that see that you better than them in what you do, whatever that you may do or do, or like say you do a better job than them in at these companies. You run the company as a manager, but or what it may be as a supervisor. They don't like that, So they'll try to find ways to set up a system or whatever it may be, construct something up to where they keep you from getting the job, from working at the company or even moving up, They'll just lie to you and say, just you'll move up soon, 6 months from now, a year, and it still ain't giving you. They'll give another the other opportunity to a so-called white man eating my devil before you. You be wondering why, like, well, wait a minute, how he jumped me? He ain't been here that long. I've been here longer than him. They'll overlook you and grab that white man eating my devil that ain't been that long than you, and give them the manager job or supervisor job, whatever it may be, over the company. Cause like I said, most of these companies, they ran by Edomites. They're over Edomites anyway, for the most part. So, so-called Negro, Latino, Israelites, you can't expect to even, just be like, well, shit, you gotta understand who the company ran by anyway. It ran by damn devil Edomites, So, like I said, if you ain't part of that circle, you unless you sell out, but you have some Israelites, and you have some Negro, Latino, Israelites do sell out for these companies or whatever, and try to be a coon and this and that, and they'll do their own wrong, just to try to be a part of that circle, But those that do that, the Lord Yahweh Shai gonna destroy you for that, man. Could he eating my devil? They still gonna turn their back on you, But we'll go from there. I'm trying to hurry. I'm not trying to make it so long. It's a long article because I'm trying to get to the point. I'm saying in 2023 conditions. Hold up. So it's saying 2023 conditions for black workers looked at as healthy as ever. Unemployment reached a low of 4.8%. Wages rose at their fastest pace since data collections began in the 1990s. And median black households' wealth reached the highest level on record. Conditions started to deteriorate in 2004 after pandemic areas subsides, aspired, hiring slowed, and high prices weighed heavily on low-income earners. Black households were the only racial group last year in which median income fell and the poverty rate rose, according to U.S. Census Bureau. Let's see. Job losses are concentrated among black women working in professional service such as human resources. According to Wilson analysts of federal data, a hiring freeze and mass layoffs in federal workforce, which have continued during the government shutdown, now exceed 200,000, have also fallen disproportionately on black workers. State and local governments have picked up some of the slack from federal agencies, but competition for those jobs have gotten tougher with more laid off public sector workers looking for a position. Let's see. There's federal backlash against diversity, equity, and inclusion practices. May be difficult. Well, practice may be making it more difficult for black workers to get hired in private sector too. Some of the strongest evidence of the efficiency of these practices, such as making sure to interview non-white candidates or reach out to black and Hispanic students, comes from federal contractors, and one of the first actions the Trump administration ordered that group not to pursue racial equity anymore. So, hey, like I say, like I just said not too long, like it's all constructed set up to keep the so-called Negro, Latino, Native down, man. It's strategic set up to, hey, you apply for a job, but hey, they don't look at you first. You the last one's hired and the first one's fired, right? So so-called Negro Latinos, you the last one's hired and the first one's fired. I mean, so that's what it is, man. But I ain't gonna make this too long, get to the scriptures. So this one, Zephaniah 1:10 goes into about the stock market crash. So, and it shall come to pass in the day saith the Lord Yahweh Shah, that there shall be the noise of a cry from the fish gate. That was the first stock market crash. And in 1929, that happened. And a howling from the second, the one in 2008, the house market crash, and a great crash from here. So it's this crash and that is gonna come about if it happens this month. If it's it's trending that way, we'll see. But if not next year, but eventually it's gonna happen. When it does, it's gonna be a crash of all crashes. It's gonna be like, say, to where everything just is done. It's over with. Everything's it's done. No point of return. I say the paper dollar is gonna be worthless. You go into these stores or places, they be like, we're not accepting that no more. It's stock market, the crash in the market, and so forth, man. Debit cards, probably useless. We'll have banks defaulting, banks closing. Gonna be bank runs. Banks gonna, how you can't even access your money in the bank. That's gonna happen. That been in movies. Movies kind of show you an example of that. I forgot what movie, but it's a couple of those movies where the bank, once the banks, bank runs. They you try to get your money out and you can't. Because of a crisis or whatever it may be. Like I said, the bank closing. They ain't tell you. It's just you can't get your money out now. So I say if you do have some type of money, in your account, you need to try to not have it in there, because they're gonna try to make some bank runs to where bank closes where you can't even get your money out. So it's best not even have a lot of money. Have some a little bit here and there, and then something like that. It don't matter, but I don't have a lot of money in the bank, especially right now. How things are going. But yeah, that's what's coming, man. It could happen this month. Like I say, we'll see. It could happen next year. But knowing that the great crash is coming, this great crash is gonna be It's gonna be worse than the two I just said in 1929, was that, was the Great Depression, and the recession, all, it was bad. But then 2008, it was bad, but not as bad, but it was bad. But this gonna be worse than those. It's gonna be worse than those two. In 1929 and 2008. So this one is gonna happen. It's gonna mess everything up across the board. It's gonna have everybody, messed up, man. So. But let's see. Yeah, because I ain't want to make this too long, so I'm just kind of go to the point. Ecclesiastes 12:3. In the day when the keepers of the house shall tremble, and the strong men shall bow themselves, and the grounders shall cease because they are few, and those that look out the window be darkened. So hey, the grounding is, it's getting low. The grounding gonna see, man. It's gonna get to a point like ain't gonna be no jobs here to get, and you folks gonna be hiring like they say. They might say they're hiring is, it's dwindling. Back around this time, doing these these false holidays, whatever. Around this time, you get these part-time jobs, you'll get them, right? They need some help, with helping, in retail, whatever, with stocking, or, helping out with selling and with the trucks and all this stuff like that they need help with. You'll get that. Now, man, they not really hiring like that for now, because how this economy is going. With how this economy going, people barely to afford to buy food and stuff like that. These holidays that's coming up, Thanksgiving and so forth, and Christmas, people buying stuff for those times that's coming up is not looking good. It could really be a downturn for retail and so forth. That's if, what I'm saying, like I say, by before November, and I say if the great crash don't happen this month, because I'm still got this month left. It's not looking good. We'll see. But I say if it ain't this year, it's gonna be next year. Possibly next year for sure. Well, how it's going, it's a domino effect. We'll see, man. It could possibly be this year, man. I say you could wake up, man, and boom, and in the news, well, may be to where, hey, the stock market completely just dropped out, crashed, they just start panicking and losing their minds about it, man. But like I say, it's gonna be, ain't gonna be no work, man. Grinding is low, it's ceasing. People gonna be, depressed, man. And, they're gonna be trying to survive and trying to figure out how they gonna, pay for this or what it may be to try to, keep going. But as Ecclesiastes 12:4, and the doors shall be shut in the streets when the sound of the ground is low, and he shall rise up at the voice of the bird, and all the daughters of music shall be low. Hey, so we know the time like I say, it's gonna come to a point where, like I said, a lot of these places that you see open now, see it's closed. They close and they're not opening up no more. They close because they ain't getting no business. Ain't nobody spending because of how high everything is, and they can't afford it. They could barely afford. They better could pay rent. people complain about paying rent for apartments, where it may be, house rent, mortgage, all that. People just struggling. It's a struggle for a lot of people right now. Even ones that do got money, they like shit. They seeing how fast they money dwindling. So and like I said, the daughter's music shall be low. We got the music right now. Music is not good at all. It ain't bad, but it ain't what it used to be. Basically, it's getting low. The high vibration, the good soulful music that you'll vibe to, and you'll be upbeat about. It's not there no more. You got a lot of artists that's in there around my age, maybe a little bit younger and older. They're trying to come back into the scene of doing concerts or trying to do music, trying to kind of bring that old feel of good, somewhat somewhat a good feel music, but it's it ain't what it used to be. So it's low right now. It ain't good. So a lot of things just it's coming to an end, man. And like I said, it's not gonna get no better, bro. Hey, you're looking at the end of I said the so-called white man, east Sodomite's world, his kingdom, man. It is what it is, the end of an era, of an age, a time, Esau Edomite's time is running out. Edomite devil's time, his rulership is running out. The Edomite devils in some power, these bankers, these elites, they're running out of time, man. They know it. But so I'll end off with this. I ain't gonna make it too long. Ecclesiastes 12:5. Also, when they shall be afraid of that which is high, fear shall be in the way, and the almond tree shall flourish, and a grasshopper shall be a burden, and desire shall fail because man go up to his long home, and the mourners go about the street. So yeah, it's gonna be I say the Lord Yahweh Shai say they're gonna fear which is high, which is Lord Yahweh Shai the Lord. Because they're going to know there's a higher power at work, just it's making things happen, Lord Yahweh bringing down judgment, and the fear of the Lord Yahweh, they're going to know, it's just, it's not all Satan. Satan not that powerful, it's Lord Yahweh, he's making things happen according to prophecies. He's bringing down the judgments. The prophecies, that the apostles, Brother Great Mister teach, the word of the Lord is coming to pass. The scriptures, all hell and chaos gonna break out in these streets. It's gonna get real ugly out here. A lot of people just gonna, like I said, start losing their minds. It's gonna get way worse than what you've been seeing on TV or on the internet. It's gonna get out of control, man. It's gonna get to a point, like I say, people, you're gonna have the troops that's gonna start killing people in the streets. They ain't gonna just use tear gas no more to try, and push them and push people out the way and use beanbag shotguns. It's gonna get to a point where people just gonna start shooting at the military, troops, whatever it may be. It's gonna get chaotic, man. That's the times that we're in, man. It's gonna get worse than what we see right now, man, or what we hear about, man. So, I said desires the desire shots fail, man. You kind of seeing that now. You seeing it's. I say you still got you still can move around, do this and that. Like I say, it's not completely, all the way out. Desires are fully out, but you can see how people just it ain't the energy ain't there. The thrill ain't there what it used to be. So desires are really kind of failing now, but it's gonna get to a point where people really don't want to do shit no more. Like it's like they're not gonna be excited or happy to do anything because how bad the economy is gonna get. They can't afford this, they can't pay their bills, or maybe they can't get no job. They get laid off from their jobs, they getting fired, or whatever it may be. The business closing, because they can't afford it to keep it open. So. Yeah, man, it's finna get crazy out here. It's finna get bad out here, man. You can see, the trending of it. You know, like I say, because it looking like they not gonna get no funding and make pass that bill, the government shutdown, and it's gonna affect a lot of people more. They're gonna feel it. So, but yeah, man, and what I'm saying, people just gonna be, depressed, in their homes, and they can't find no work, It's gonna be out here looking, sad and depressed, man. Like I say, it's gonna be worse than the Great Depression, 1929, and the 2008 housing market crash. And once this great crash do come about, if all crashes, no point of return, it's over with, it's done. And once it happens, everything is gonna be affected, and the economy is just gonna be, done. It's gonna be over with, man. It's, like I said, just, a lot of people out here gonna be, doing what they gotta do to survive, man. It's gonna get ugly out here. But I didn't want to make this too long. So again, I like to bar praise and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushua, Bahashem Kakdash, to the apostle elders, to the sister brothers, to the few Aqua sisters that do listen. Keep the faith in Yahushua. Keep fighting with that.